All right, this is the website review for Tristan Rivetto Fitness. Okay, so I'm going to be looking up top a bit because I have notes up there just to guide me through this. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at what you've done well and some areas for improvement, and then steps you can take as well. And we'll just get into it. So to start off, the good is performance. When I look down here, you can see that the load time is 2.33 seconds. That's great. We want the load time of our websites to be under 4 seconds. So that's a good job. One point I'd like to mention is that when we look for mobile, the performance is a bit slower and it goes down to 12.3 seconds. Unfortunately, this isn't really something that you can deal with because it's more of a limitation on Squarespace and how they configure their websites. So nothing you can really do about that, but it is just something to be aware of and to think about is that it is going to load a bit slower on mobile, and that's gonna hurt you in a few different areas, specifically SEO and making sure people stay on the website. So that's performance, which is good. Another piece I'd like to call attention to is your Google My Business. You had mentioned how you want to get, one of your goals is how you want to show up in the search results. And we'll talk more about SEO later, which is search engine optimization. We'll talk more about that later. But if we take a look at your Google My Business, you have 5-star reviews. You've got 7 of them, and they're all fairly recent. We've got a couple new ones. This is definitely something you want to keep focusing on and keep putting emphasis on, is getting those reviews, because that will help narrow down how Google chooses to recommend people when they search for your industry. So that's my other piece of advice, is currently there's a way in Google My Business to add what your business is. So if that's personal training, private gym, whatever you want to classify yourself as, you can throw in a little tagline here. And that's also going to help, because how it works is if I search fitness gyms near me, what it's going to do is it's going to look at all the different gyms that are near the person that's Googling, and it's going to choose the ones that it seems to think is the best. And it looks at reviews, it looks at page load times, it looks at how long people are staying on that website. So it looks at all these different factors, and just one way that we can get you showing up towards the top and getting found. So that is your Google My Business reviews are doing well. So keep that up, keep asking clients for those. Next up is security. When we look at your website, you have the check mark or the lock here, and that just says that connection is secure. We want to see that, so that's good. Squarespace is going to be in charge of making sure your website is backed up in any way. So nothing you can really do about that, but just making sure that it is. That's something that's always important in case you lose access to it. And then finally, this is something I'm not sure if you are currently doing, but definitely want to make sure you are doing, is have your 2-factor authentication set up. So you definitely want to make sure that you have 2-factor authentication on, ideally with an authenticator app and not a phone number, because people do try to steal websites for tons of different reasons. Sometimes they don't even try to gain anything from it. They just do it for the hell of it. So make sure you have that set up, because you don't want to lose it. Okay, and with that, we'll get into room for improvement. The first piece I want to talk about is to consider accessibility. So you have this black on blue with your logo. If I come over to this page, you can see that I've changed your headline text to be this black and blue. And if I inspect it with Google's tools, you can see that there's a little exclamation mark by contrast. And it says contrast is 2.5 and it has an exclamation mark. If I go over the white, you'll see that under accessibility contrast, it's 20.38 and it has a green check mark. So what this means is that the black and blue does not generate a contrast ratio that is accessible. And this means that many people won't be able to, depending on their eyesight, discern the difference between these two colors enough to actually tell what it is they're reading. So it is pretty clear here. Well, let me turn off this. It is pretty clear here. You can see it, but it's definitely something you want to think about because generally when you see that contrast ratio is not high enough, that's usually an indication that you want to change some of your colors to make it more accessible. And you can do that either by changing the background or changing the logo color. Either way, that's accessibility. I would just give that a consideration. The next quality of a good website that we're looking for is speaking the language of customers. We don't want to forget that the main way to sell, especially on a website, is to talk about results and then the obstacles that are in the way. So you want to on the one hand explain the results that you are getting your customer, and you want to hype those up, not inflate it, overinflate it, but be genuine and share what those results are. And then on the other hand, you want to reduce or make it easy for the customer to see that why going with you is the right way. And that's how you remove obstacles. So that's what you want to make sure you're also talking about. So, you talk about, let me go over this page. You say what you do. You get a little bit into why train, which is good. You also have some testimonials, which are great because that shows it. But you really want to just dedicate some sections to talk about the benefits. Just outline them, whatever the main benefits are. You have increased energy, a little bit more explanation on all that, just so people know what it is that they're getting. A before and after would also be huge. I don't know if you have any like physical transformations, but those are huge. Before and after could even be you talking youth fitness, success stories with people that have started working with you and now have achieved great things in their soccer career or whatever that is. Those are all good sections to add to your website, even pages to add to your website. With that, we're going to go into a quick lesson on SEO because SEO is a big topic and it's one of the goals that you mentioned is showing up in search engines. And that's what SEO stands for, is search engine optimization. How can we optimize our website to show up in search engines? One thing you want to start with is the keywords. So right here, your biggest text, Needham's Premier Private Gym. This is something that you're going to want to decide on, is how do you want people to find you? So Needham's good, that's your location. Premier Private Gym. So Google is going to see gym, they're going to see private, they're going to think this is what people are searching for. So if you're a private gym, keep this is good. If you're a personal trainer, you're going to want to put personal trainer here. This is just going to show Google like what you are so that they know what to recommend to people when they're looking for. And this is called keywords. And this SEO can be a challenging and time-consuming task, especially when you're competing at a high level and going for that #1 ranked spot. But you're gonna primarily want to focus on local SEO. So you're not going to be competing with all of Boston. You're not going to be competing with all of Massachusetts. You're going to be competing specifically to the area where people are willing to drive to you or that you're willing to drive to. So you're going to want to focus on local SEO, and that's all about getting reviews. If you can get as many reviews as possible, and it has to be genuine. You can't just pay people to get reviews. Just ask your clients when they're done with you to give you a review. That's going to be a signal to Google that you're doing a good job. I forgot to mention this earlier. Add your address here. Right now it has this big location of where you're servicing. But now that you have a physical address, you can even, I think, put in a opening soon tag. So you're going to want to do that. So add the address, add an opening soon. Google will start recognizing your specific location. And then in that specific location, you'll start showing up higher and higher. Because right now you're dealing with everyone that's related to the fitness industry and this entire thing. And some people have more reviews than you. Some people have been doing more and spending more time on SEO. Some people have a website that loads faster than you. Some people have a website where people spend more time on it. So you're competing with a lot of people in this big area. Like there are probably 4 million people in this area and then however many gyms, hundreds of gyms, you're competing with all of those. So if you narrow it down, then you'll be able to compete a lot easier. So that's our local SEO. Oh, one great idea I had is see if you can get a write-up and a link to your website. I don't know if there are any newspapers for Needham, but if you could just get on a directory, if there's a publication about like your private gym opening soon, could just do a little write-up for you. I would reach out and see if you could do that because Another big piece of SEO is getting established websites to link back to you. So if you just reach out to someone and say, hey, new gym's opening up, here's my address, here's what I focus on, then that'll be great for Google and showing up at the top. So that's SEO. Next, I'd like to discuss general design and structure recommendations. So first piece I had is create a pronounced footer. Separate this a little bit just so that people know that it is, you want to separate your header, your main content, and then your footer. And you want to make it distinct because people associate the top with navigation. People associate the bottom just with like general details. So, this little write-up is good. Just disclosing that contact information is good. I would add your address here. Definitely do that because Google will see that. Add your hours. Make sure that they line up with what you say on your Google My Business. Email is good. Maybe even think about getting a business email. You might be able to set that up through Squarespace, where you have Tristan at twrfitness.net. But that is what you want to do is create a pronounced footer, separate this out, drop these two down to the bottom, add the location, add the hours. Next up is up here. This is the landing section. We want to simplify this down a bit. So take this notification, if you can in Squarespace, make a notification banner that goes above the navigation. And whenever you have a notification, you're going to put that up there. If your gym's closed because it's a holiday, if it's too snowy out and there's a blizzard and you just want to let people know that the gym's going to be closed, you would put that up in a notification just right at the top. There'd be a little banner that goes across. Otherwise, it's just disappeared. But in the meantime, while you're opening, you're just going to put that up there, and that's going to give you more real estate here. Header. The pages you want on the header, in the order you want to go, is home, about, services, contact, and then call to action. We'll talk about call to action a bit later, but basically you just want to consolidate all of this into an about page. Put your story on there, put the gym story on there, what you're about, consolidate all that. Services are good. You just talk about them, talk about the pricing, what people can expect. Remember, speak the language of your customers. What benefits do they want? What do they want to get out of you? What do they typically see? What do past customers typically see when they work with you? And what are the obstacles in their way? And how do you help them overcome that? Whether that's accountability or whatever. And then contact page. You just want a general contact page where it shows your location on like Google Map and then a little form they can fill out for general inquiries. And that's general design structure recommendations. And now we're going to get into, I think, the biggest thing that are going to help for you, because you said your last goal was to drive more consultations. Currently, you don't have any call to actions on your website. You have a little bit of learn more. But if your main call to action is to drive more consultations, we want buttons on your website that tell people the next step to take. So for those people that are considering working with you, what is the next step? That's a consultation. Okay, so what does that look like? And this comes back down to speaking the language of your customers. If you were a contractor who specialized in beachside renovations, what would sound better? If you had a button on your landing section that said, request your free consultation, or something along the lines of how they could get a custom renovation plan. It's the same thing. During the conversation, you're coming up with a plan for them, but you want to make it sound more intriguing, more beneficial, and not so boring because everyone is saying the same thing about consultations. You want to make it stand out. We also want a call to action for those that aren't ready for a consultation. Some people are hearing about you for the first time. They are not going to just jump into scheduling something with you. For them, we want something that's a bit easier and something that they can do in a day. And probably the best thing to do is just have a little video for them to watch, something small that they can do to start making improvements, going down the same theme of the general contractor. That would be like 7 questions you need to ask before your home renovation. For you, that could be something like the 7 stretches you should do before getting out of bed. I don't know, but whatever it is that they could start doing today that's quick and easy and start seeing results. You're not showing them everything, but just a little snippet just for them to start recognizing you as an authority. And then forms need to be set up. for each call to action. So for your consultation, you'll have a button up here that says request your fitness. I don't know off the top of my head what I would call it, but you put a little button, they click that, takes them to the form where they would then request that consultation. And then you'd have a section lower down on your website where you'd have a whole section dedicated to that video for people that are interested in just learning a little bit more. That's it. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to me. I'm going to be putting together, or I want to put together training videos and stuff like that. I know I don't really have a lot of supporting material at the moment, but I want to put together resources for this. So if there are any questions, reach out. I'll make tutorials, anything that you want. This is something that has been on my plate for a while, is how to making websites more accessible for people. Yeah, let me know. And hopefully this was helpful. Good luck, and if you have any questions, reach out.